Samantha from Jessimo Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a faux turquoise and faux gold vein quartz inlay cane. So we're going to start with the turquoise, and for that I'm going to be using Primo Turquoise. You can use whatever colour you want. If you don't have Primo, you can use anything that resembles the colour, but this I thought was the closest without having to mix your own colours, so that's what we're working with. And as you can see, you're going to take it straight from the packet, don't condition it at all, and you're going to just take that and you're going to chop that into sections. And by not conditioning it, it's going to prevent the clay from kind of squishing into itself and forming soft edges, and we're going to keep nice sharp angles. Okay, and I've just chopped it into some basic squares there, and then from that point you're going to go in and you're going to chop it a little more at random, breaking down those segments into large and small pieces. Okay, and this is what you should be left with. Then just run your fingers through and just almost rub it out a little bit, and this should help separate any pieces that have stuck together. It's okay if you've got some, but I just want to separate it out a little bit. Okay, and now at this point we're going to be adding a little bit of alcohol ink. This is an optional step. I find that it gives the clay a little bit of a brown tinting around each of the segments. Again, optional. We are going to be using black paint to create the veins for the most part, so if you want to skip this, you can skip this. Also, it tends to make a mess, so to make this easier, I always put my clay into a little plastic bag, and this means I have to use less paint and less alcohol as well. So I'm just doing that quickly. Just grab that and just pop it in there. And there we go. Then if you're going to be using the alcohol ink, I would advise spraying a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in here. And what that does is it's going to help the alcohol ink move around. There we go. Just it will help it spread to all of the little pieces. This is the colour I am going to be using. Any brown of choice will work. You could use a green as well. And I'm going to pop in like 3 drops worth. Close that up, making sure that there is still air in the bag, and then shake this around. Like so. And I'll do that a little more, but you want to just get an even distribution of that ink. And you can see it does a pretty good job of doing that while keeping everything nice and clean. Okay, and I'm just going to take some black acrylic paint and I'm going to pop that in. And you only need a little bit. A couple drops should do. Going to close that up again, making sure that there is still air left in the bag. Bunch it all around the bottom and give it a shake. Okay, and that will again disperse everything nice and evenly. Then you're going to open up that bag and I'm going to bring over a different tile because I want to make it again easier to clean up. And I'm going to tip this out. There we go. And then I'm just going to leave that on the tile and I'm going to allow it to dry for probably around half an hour, just to make sure that all of that paint is completely dry, because I don't want any wet spots when I go to bunch it all together. And with that we can move on to the quartz. Okay, And quartz is much of the same. I'm going to be using some scrap translucent polymer clay, and by scraps I mean pieces that have already been used before, then rolled through the pasta machine, and so are going to end up being more cloudy than the typical translucent you could just cut straight off the block. So this is a good technique for that. You're just going to chop that up like you did before. Also, you can use translucent straight off the block if you want. It does not need to be scraps. I'm just saying this is a good way to use the scraps because it doesn't require it to be completely clear. But you're just going to chop that up much the same way until you get lots of tiny little pieces. Okay. And then we will be adding acrylic paint, but before we do that, I'm going to add 1 or 2 pieces of gold metal leaf. There we go. I'll just add 1, and you just take that and you fold that in, and it should stick to the clay. And when I'm doing this, I am just generally rolling the clay between my fingers. I'm not applying a lot of pressure because you don't want the little pieces all to stick to each other. You just want it to pick up the leaf. Then once I have broken up the first piece, I'll bring over a second. And then do much of the same thing. Just press it in and then roll it around, getting that to disperse over the translucent pieces. Okay, then much like before, I will take that and I'll place it in a bag. A clean one if you're using a different paint colour. If you were going to use black for the veins, then you could just pop it straight into the previous bag and save a bit on the paint, but this one I'm actually going to be applying gold acrylic paint, so I have to use a different bag. And I'm just going to apply that, and I don't need too much, especially since we already have a lot of gold dispersed across the piece. Close that up and give it a shake. And then to darken up the veins a little, I'm going to be using a brown paint rather than black. And again, like before, just open up and apply the paint. And you really don't need a lot of paint. That should be enough. Okay, and then give it a shake like before. Okay. And there we go. This one I tipped out onto the same tile and let it dry. And this one is now dry as well, about half an hour later, and they both should be ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to form them both into solid pieces. And that's why you really want the paint to be dry, because this first off will make a big mess and the pieces won't stick together well, and the paint being dry makes it a lot easier. This one as well, I especially wanted to give it a bit of time because that ink will have kind of seeped into the clay, and you won't be able to see it right now, but once we cut this you should be able to see like a slight, almost like a smoke ring around each of the little segments of clay, which creates a really nice effect. Just take that and squish them both together, and then when you've done that, you want to form them into a rectangle, both of them, and that shouldn't take too long. Okay, and this one formed it into a nice kind of rectangle shape. This one is going to be a flat square because that is the piece that we're really going to be shaping. So I'm just going to take that, press that onto the tile so it's stuck a little bit. I'm going to grab a craft knife and I'm just going to cut it into pieces. And don't try to get straight lines with this, you want it to look chunky. Just kind of break those off. Keep them in place though so that you know how to fit them back together again though. Just cut it into pieces like so. Okay, and there we go. Then just keep that like that. And this one I'm going to just cut off the first piece, because that piece we're not going to use because it's going to have all this black here. I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up, but it's got the brown around the edges. Hopefully it can pick that up. But yeah, but I'm going to cut this into segments. And they don't all have to be the same thickness. Just cut them into segments, and this one also just trim off that end bit. Okay, and then we're going to use these to kind of patch in here. So, and then as you patch it in, you will just kind of press these pieces back together. There we go. And just make sure that it is lining up on the opposite side as well. And then you're just going to continue doing that, essentially, just piecing it all together. And sometimes you'll need to mold this to get it to shape correctly. And yeah, just segment it together. And I want it to be a situation where it's going to be distorted, so don't worry about getting it exactly right. Just piece it together. Yeah. There we go. Then you're just going to squish that back together into a rectangular cane. And again, this is going to create distortion and make it look like it blends together better. I didn't want it to keep all those sharp edges that the craft knife would have left, so you're encouraging distortion on this. Okay, and just press it all together, making sure it's bonded, and we'll be able to cut slices without it falling to pieces and things like that. So again, just spend some time molding it into the correct shape. And there we go. Okay, and then we're going to cut off a slice. Just use a nice sharp blade to do that. And there you can see how that looks. And I'm going to cut out a few slices. And you should have pretty much the same veining throughout with some slight variation, but they should look pretty much the same, so you can turn it around and mirror it for earring projects, which is probably what we're going to end up making. But there we go. Okay, so I'm going to grab one of the pieces and I'm just going to burnish that onto the tile using a piece of ceramic, using a piece of plain printing paper. Then I've got two little metal ovals that I have over here, which I thought would look quite nice. If you are going to be using metal with your clay, you do need to know that metal does not stick to the clay, so we're going to be using resin down the line to seal the metal onto the clay. So just bear that in mind when you work with metal. I will explain more a little bit later, but for now just know that if you are going to be using little metal pieces in any of your work that forms a border, it is going to need some kind of sealant later on. Now I'm just going to grab a piece of plastic wrap, and I'm going to place that over this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to form a dome. I'm going to place these down. I'm going to grab a little acrylic block so that I get nice even pressure, and I'm going to press down like so, forming a nice little dome. I'm going to do the same for the other piece. Okay, place it down, give that a good old press, and there we go. Now we've got our shape to cut out. I'm going to pop those to the side, lift up the cling wrap, and this gives a nice smooth finish. Then you can place those back into place. Okay. Use a craft knife to separate the two. And I'm just going to press down on the outside a little more, just to get it to really stick to the clay, and then trim around the outside so that we have clay backing the piece. And then once we've cut this out and we've baked it, I'm going to be applying resin to the top. That way it seals the metal piece to the clay and won't have it popping up. Just trim the whole way around and lift away the extra. Repeat on the other side. Okay. And I transferred them to a tile once I'd finished cutting around the edges, just so that they aren't stuck to this tile and I can move it around. But just make sure that you trim around the edges as clean as possible. Turn it around, make sure it's all nice and clean. We can do a little bit of you can do a bit of sanding after you've baked it, but you want it to be as clean as possible before you put it in the oven. And you're going to pop them straight into the oven exactly like this. You're going to bake it for a full hour. Don't do that just yet though, because I want to show you two more little beads, and these are going to be tube beads. For that, I'm going to grab another piece of clay, and I'm going to trim around the outside to get rid of the kind of messy bits that still have a lot of paint and such, so that we can clearly view the veins. Okay, and then cut that in half, and then for both of them, let me just trim that again actually, and then for both of them you're going to shape them into a tube, and to do that you're going to pinch on to all of the sharp edges. Just kind of pinch inwards so that you round it out. And just generally squish it into a rough tube shape, rounding out all of those sharp edges. And then once you've got it into a tube like that, grab a block of some kind. You can use a tile. I use an acrylic block because I can see through it. And then just roll like so to even out, get rid of fingerprints, and to just get a nice easy tube shape. And then you would repeat the exact same thing with this one, pinching all of the edges, and then roll it to the same diameter as this piece. And those would be your other two earrings. Okay, And then once you've got that, then you're going to pop that into the oven for a full hour. Allow that to bake, let it cool. I generally pop it straight into cold water after it's come out of the oven to clear up the translucent. Also bear in mind that the metal might pop off if you pop it straight into water, or even afterwards once it's baked, so don't be worried if that happens. That's perfectly fine, it's fixable, and we are going to seal it in, so don't worry if the metal pops off. That's essentially what I'm saying. But yeah, bake it for a full hour. Okay, and here they are out of the oven. Now, 2 of them I have already sanded. I'm not sure how well that can show up, but it should have a little bit of a sheen. This one also I have sanded and has a nice sheen to it. These 2, however, need to be finished up. Oh wait, yeah, this one actually is the one that got sanded. But you can actually see that. But yeah, these 2 we're going to sand. So I'll put those ones to the side for now. I'm just going to be using some polishing papers because they're already quite smooth, they don't need a lot done. And these are the polishing papers. They come in a couple different grits, green being the lowest grit and then going all the way through to the highest grit, that being white. I only am going to need it starting from the pink one, just because this is already quite smooth, so we don't need to use the lower grits. And all you're going to do is you're just going to position it with the sandpaper between your fingers so it creates almost this little canal, and then you're going to take the tube bead and you're going to sand it like so. This makes the sanding quite easy on your joints and also keeps the shape of the bead as well, because sometimes when sanding it can be difficult to avoid creating flat points. So just creating a little dome or canal with your fingers really helps that out. And then you're just going to sand a little bit for each grit. Once you're done with the pink one, then you'd move up to the turquoise one, which I will do now. You don't need too much. And yeah, just sand from that to the white one, and that should leave you with a nice sheen. And there we go. It's got a nice light sheen to it. That will work as it is. If you wanted it to be a little shinier, you could just give this a quick rub against some denim. It would buff it up quite nicely. I'm going to show you how to buff it properly, but that would work quite well as it is. For this one, it is much the same process. You're just going to separate it from its, the metal part if you have used that. And you can see it pops off really easily, which is why we're going to need to seal it. And again, I am only going to use the pink through to the white. And it's just simply sanding the top because I pressed down on it using the acrylic block. It's got an almost flat surface. And that means that it's quite quick and easy to sand. And there we go, that should give it a nice sheen. And just pop that back into place so that you know where it goes. There we go. And that will seal in a little bit. We're also going to be varnishing the back, so if it needs any cleaning up, I would sand that as well. I'm going to apply a stud to the back, and I have those ready to go. Just going to apply it like that, because with the metal in the front over here, you can't drill through that, and I don't want to have the hole all the way down here. I don't think it's going to work, so I'm going to apply studs to these ones. But first, let's take care of the tubes, and for those we're going to buff them. And so I'm going to use a Dremel tool with a cotton buffing wheel, and I do supply this cotton buffing wheel on my Etsy store. I will have a link to my store in the description below if you are interested. It works really well, and I'll just show you how that looks. quite done there, but there, it will just bring up the shine a little bit. Not absolutely necessary if you don't want to do it. You could also varnish it to bring a little bit of a shine. I really do prefer the natural look, especially when imitating stones. But yeah, buffing it will just give it a little bit of a higher shine. Okay, and then once they have been buffed, you can assemble it into an earring. And this is the design that I've chosen for the cylinders. I will go over the other ones in a little bit. For now, this is the one that is going to be made. So you're going to take this, and you're going to take a little eye pin, and you're going to take that and you're going to pop that into the top, or you're going to pop that into each end, like so. It can be a little fussy to get right, but once you get it going, it should go in no problem. There you go. And I usually use the eye pins with a decently long tail. That way I don't have to worry about applying glue to the project, because the pins stay in on their own without the need for any kind of adhesive. And there we go, that's what you're going to do. And you could use it as a bead exactly like this and link them together. That would work quite well. But for this one, we're going to be attaching a ear wire. I'll just take that, open the bottom, attach, close it up. And then for the bottom part, I have chosen a little gold chain, and I've got two lengths that are equal and one longer length. And you're going to grab this here, and you're going to open that loop. There we go. And then you're going to pop on the chain, and depending on what chain you have and the length of your chain, just adjust as needed, and just pop that on like so, nice and easy, and then just close it back up again. And that is the first earring design. Okay. And these are going to be resined on both the front and the back. I'm going to do the front first, and this is the UV resin that I am going to be using. I'm just going to take that and just apply it to your piece. And when working with any kind of resin, you want to work with a small amount, and then just kind of space it out a little bit and add more as you need. Don't add a huge amount in the beginning, you can always add more, but once you have it kind of spilling over the sides, it's really difficult to do anything about it. You can, but it's better to avoid it, and so I prefer to add small amounts of resin, drag it over to the edges. If I need to apply a second coat later, you can do that. But just work in small amounts. Okay. Then I'll cure this for about 15 minutes to make sure that it's nice and hard, and this will bond the metal to the polymer clay. And then I'm going to show you how to do the back as well, because we're going to apply the stud to the back. Okay, and here they are out of the UV light. So that will have sealed on your little metal pieces, while also giving it a nice shiny finish. Then I'm just going to flip them over, and I have the little stud backs ready over here. And just bear with me for one moment. I'm just going to grab that And I'm just going to hold it in place while I drop the resin on. And this will also give it a nice secure hold. And I don't want too much resin on the back, just enough to give a clean coat while also at the same time holding that backing into place. If you didn't want to apply UV resin, or any resin for that matter, you would need to embed the stud into the clay so that it's secure. But you would then cure that for like another 15 minutes to get that stuck on, and then they're pretty much done. Okay, and here they are once they've finished curing. And you'll now have a nice shiny finish on both sides, and that metal will now be sealed in and you don't have to worry about it popping off of the piece. But yeah, that's it for both of the earring designs. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you will be trying this veining technique. Bear in mind that it does not have to be the stones that I used. One that I thought would look quite nice is if you swap the turquoise out for a faux emerald imitation. If you're interested in me showing how to do that, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, that is pretty much it for today. If you liked the video, please do consider leaving a like and a comment, as that always helps the channel out. And if you're not already subscribed, I highly recommend it, as I do multiple videos like this every single week. And again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.